Before we start today, I have to tell you about State Farm agent Bryant. A lot of our listeners have gone to him for all their insurance needs. He's been very helpful in getting them the coverage they deserve. There's no game with Bryant. He's just here to help and make sure you feel safe. If you have insurance needs and you haven't called him yet, what are you waiting for? Dial up the number, 630-796-2662. That's 630-796-2662. Or find him online at bryanismyagent.com. That's bryanismyagent.com. And make sure to mention Sports Talk Chicago. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. I want to start today with this. How do you perform with no expectations? What do you do when people expect nothing out of you? It's like when you're the last kid picked for a football game and you score a touchdown, right? On the playground. Everyone's in shock, like, I didn't know you could do that. Yeah, I'm capable. Give me a shot. I have nothing to lose. There's also a difference between no expectations and high expectations and pressing. Think about the Cubs back in May, June, July. High expectations, decent players, they were pressing. Couldn't perform, couldn't hit the baseball, couldn't pitch. And as we all know, fire sale. Everyone traded, new team, rebuild, everyone's gone. I don't know, it seemed like those guys couldn't rise up to the occasion. Couldn't anymore, at least. I mean, yes, they won the World Series in 2016, but what have they done since then? A whole lot of nothing. All those players from the 2016 team, what have they done in baseball since winning the World Series? Nothing. Got complacent, couldn't stay consistent, and then caved in when pressure mounted. They pressed. At the end of the day, I think everybody was happy to see him go. I know the nostalgia value is still there, but from a baseball perspective, from an X's and O's perspective, everybody was happy to see the Cubs move on. Now when you watch the Cubs, when you turn them on, you probably can't recognize the roster they have. Probably thinking, who the hell is Rafael Ortega? Who the hell is Frank Schwindel? Patrick Wisdom, never heard of him. But believe it or not, to their credit, they're performing. Patrick Wisdom leads the team in home runs with 25. Frank Schwindel, 34 games, 10 homers, 30 RBIs. Rafael Ortega, 838 OPS, 293 batting average, 82 games. How do you explain this? All of these random journeymen. When the Cubs already said, we are not going to contend, they're performing and they're winning. The Cubs just won 7 games in a row. The Cubs, the same team with Rizzo, Bryant, and Baez, who lost 12 straight back in July. Now they're winning 7 in a row with Patrick Wisdom, Rafael Ortega, a resurgence for me and Hap, and Frank Schwindel. The pitching still isn't there. Winning all these games. How the hell is that possible? It's because no one cares anymore. There are no expectations for this team. I'm surprised people even watch Cubs baseball still. So these players, a lot of them on one-year deals trying to fight for their careers, have said, you know what? We got to play our ass off if we want to stay in baseball. And they are. Now, I know a lot of people who say, I like college sports more than professional. It's a popular opinion. When I ask why, they always say they are not playing under a bloated contract. They are literally fighting for their careers. Same thing here with the Cubs. And you have to respect it. You may not be happy about the way things went down in July and August, but you have to admit, this ragtag group is winning baseball games. I can't explain it. I don't know how some of these guys are performing, but I do know this. There are no expectations, and they're fighting for their careers. All these guys are old. Patrick Wisdom's a 29-year-old rookie. Same with Frank Schwindel. Ortega's 30, and he's played what? 20 games in baseball before? All of these guys are finally getting their opportunities, and there are no expectations whatsoever. They're just being told, play. See what you can do. We're not contending. There's no pennant race, so it's up to you to make of it what you want. And to their credit, they have. I really want all these guys back next year. Seriously. Out of the one-year deals, bring them back. I'm not saying Cubs fans should be happy with this roster, but to their credit, they're making it entertaining despite trading away all their superstars. Frank Schwindel has a higher WAR this year than Anthony Rizzo. Yeah, Frank Schwindel, who's played 34 games, has a higher WAR than Anthony Rizzo, played in 92. I know everybody said, oh, don't bash the Cubs core. They won a World Series. They just couldn't perform. No, I'm going to bash the Cubs core. How is that even possible? How is a 29-year-old rookie journeyman have a better WAR than Anthony Rizzo? This goes to show you that this core, the old core, couldn't perform. It was over. I think right now you're seeing it too. A lot of people were, of course, very resistant to the changes made by the Ricketts, by Jed Hoyer. But all of you are realizing today that all these players who are being paid literally league minimum are putting up better numbers than the core. They are. Let's see, what do I want? 15 walks and 131 strikeouts in Javier Baez or Patrick Wisdom. Do I want 248 and a 792 OPS from Rizzo or Frank Schwindel hitting 340? I'm just saying. When there are no expectations, you surprise everybody, no matter what. Frank Schwindel could have hit 250 with 8 homers in 40-50 games, and everybody would have been impressed. What he's doing now is actually historic to an extent. One of the best runs I've ever seen in a Cubs uniform from anybody. And this guy was DFA'd from Oakland. Just DFA'd. Cubs picked him up. Crazy what happens when people expect the worst. Like if you're a kid on a playground and you're picked, you're the last kid picked to a baseball team. And you come up to bat, everyone's saying, oh, he's the worst hitter, bring him in, right? Calling everybody in. Then you hit a home run. You walk around the bases and tell everybody to shove it. Same idea. Everybody told the Cubs, hey, bring it in, these guys suck now, and they turn around with zero expectations, nothing to play for, nothing to lose, and they're winning baseball games. I love it. And I love the fact that they're still entertaining despite making the right business decisions. That's what I'm very psyched about. Everybody can say what they want. The decisions they made were correct. You may not want to rebuild, but the fact of the matter is the core wasn't performing. Got to move on. They did. Now they're still winning games. They're winning games. Patrick Wisdom, Frank Schwindel, Rafael Ortega. I don't know, if I were a Cubs fan, I'd be pretty happy with where this team is right now. Because if they're winning with this roster, imagine what happens when the rebuild is over. Imagine what happens when I go and spend money again. When they develop more of their top prospects. Imagine where this team's going to be. They're winning 7 in a row with this roster? You got to be kidding me. I see the lineups they're putting out every night, the ones they put on social media. I'm like, who the hell are these guys? They're winning. This is really the best case scenario if you're a Cubs fan. Sure, you may not be the Chicago White Sox. You might have lost supremacy in the city, but I'll say this much. You're rebuilding for the future. In 4 or 5 years, you will be a World Series contender, number one. Number two, until then, it may not be as painful as people thought. Maybe this won't be 2012, 2013, 100 losses. And if you could field a competitive team with these guys, save payroll, develop prospects, you're doing it right. You are doing it right. I'm not saying any of these performances are sustainable. Swindell's 29, Ortega's 30, and Wisdom's 29. These are all rookies, too, essentially. I'm not saying this will continue next year. I'm not saying these guys are going to become superstars. But if it does happen that way, or at least if they can maintain this production, you could field a 500 team during a rebuild. Then turn around in 3 or 4 years, have your prospects make some signings, and be great again. I know Cubs fans didn't want to rebuild, but I'll say this. What you have today is not bad. The team's still competing. They make every game interesting. Got rid of the core and floated possible contracts in the future. Save money. Develop guys who you know are going to be great in the future. You're still playing okay baseball. It won't be 2012 either. Don't have to worry about a 100-loss season. Don't have to worry about horrible years, forgettable years. Joe Mather playing right field. No. This has the potential to be a retool, not a rebuild, if things go according to plan. If I were a Cubs fan, I'd be stoked. No watching 100 losses. No worrying about dark years ahead. Instead, well, we'll wait a couple of years. Maybe we won't contend, but we'll play competitive baseball. And when we're ready, we're back to the top. I would actually argue the Cubs right now are the most surprising team in baseball. Tell me I'm wrong. You get rid of 3 guys who brought you a World Series, then you go on a 7-game winning streak. Your quote-unquote superstars couldn't do anything, so you got rid of them. They got a ragtag bunch of guys, 3 rookies who are nearly 30 years old. You win 7 straight. That, to me, is pretty damn surprising. And if they're winning today with this roster, what do you think happens when they complete the rebuild or the retool? They have Ed Howard called up. Greg Deichmann going to be back. What do you think happens when all these guys come up from the minors? Go and sign a couple of guys. I'm really excited for this team and where they're going. Not many people are willing to say that, but I will. What's the problem here? They're 64-76. Not horrible. Considering you got rid of your top 3 superstars. Not horrible. Hey, the Pythagorean win-loss should be 60-80. They're 64-76. They won 4 more games than they should have. They're hitting home runs, too. Homered in their 14th consecutive game, the longest active streak in the National League. This team's playing decent baseball. Without Rizzo and Baez and Bryant. By the way, if you go look up their numbers, not too good in their new locations. I really think the Cubs are moving in the right direction. Everybody wants to blame the Ricketts family. They're not spending on payroll. Hey, that may not be the best thing in the world, yes, but I'm very happy this roster's performing. They will spend on payroll when the time is right, in my opinion. I think they will. And if this team's winning now, what will happen in a couple of years with real players? All these guys are journeymen. They're getting their one shot and making the most of it. Can you imagine what happens to the Cubs when they have a real rotation? Imagine if they had a real rotation today. I think they'd be a 500 team, even with this roster. Not bad to me. Not bad at all. It's a matter of how you want to look at it. You could still be pessimistic. Oh, the Cubs got rid of their superstars. They're rebuilding. I'm not watching. I don't care. Or you could say, well, the superstars weren't performing. And the team they have today, although I don't recognize anybody on it, they're winning. So what do you think happens when they actually become good again? You have nothing to lose. Nothing to lose right now. Just imagine, too, when Jason Hayward's contract is off the books, when Yu Darvish's contract is off the books, because they're still paying him right now. Imagine when they have all this money to spend again. And meanwhile, well, they should be losing and on pace for 100 losses. They're not. Remember, everybody said, oh, this team's going to 90 losses now after the trade. Well, they're not. They're not. They're not on pace to. If they stay at this pace, they might go like 76 and 86. To me, not bad. Really not bad at all, considering. I love the direction of this team. I really think they're doing this the right way. May not look good today. Cubs fans may cower and say, oh my goodness, 64 and 76. Well, if you're a real Cubs fan, you know that the Cubs have never really been good. This is not the worst the Cubs have been. I saw an article last week. Is this the worst Cubs run, worst Cubs team ever? No, it's not. Not even close. Just won 7 straight games. Not every Cubs team has done that. 2012 Cubs didn't do it. Cubs in the 80s didn't do it. The Cubs had a college of coaches system in the 60s. They didn't win 7 straight games. You know what they did at that time, just so you know? They had different coaches from their minor league team come to the majors and all rotate as manager. I don't know, to me that'd be the worst Cubs team. They didn't even have a freaking manager around that time. They couldn't win. This team is winning 7 straight games. Keep that in mind. Don't let the recency bias put you aside. Don't be thinking, well, if they're not winning a World Series, that means they suck and they're the worst team ever. No, they're not. If you know your Cubs history, you'd realize this team really isn't that bad. And the fact that they're doing this with all these nobodies, essentially, is outstanding. I'm extremely excited for this team's future. I called for the rebuild for years. It's happening. But look at this. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect a rebuild in which they'd essentially play 500 baseball. I didn't expect a rebuild in which the team would win 7 straight games. I didn't expect a rebuild where 3 rookies under the age of 30 would be playing at superstar levels. That's not the rebuild I saw in 2012, 2013. Which means I don't think it's going to last too long. I really do believe that maybe in 2 or 3 years they're going to be back. Think about this logically. If they're winning today, what do you think is going to happen when they develop everybody and sign some people? They've won 7 straight with no money invested. They got rid of everybody. No money. Everybody should be extremely encouraged by what they're doing today. And if you're not, if you still have sour grapes over them getting rid of Baez, Bryant, and Rizzo, you need to move on then. Frank Schwindel has a higher WAR today than Anthony Rizzo. Time to realize that those guys were great, but it's over. It's beyond over. Look towards the future. Build a new core that's going to win you more World Series than just one. And they're starting on the right way today. With this roster, with little money invested, they're winning. I can't wait to see what happens when everybody develops, when they have money to be a contender again. More to come here on Sports Talk Chicago. My interview with Bill Rogers comes up next, so stay tuned.